So I'll get started just with a quick intro for both me and Jordan. So my name's Justine. If you haven't been to any of our Dig Deeper sessions yet, this is a monthly session where we give you a quick update on what's been rolling out with our new products, our new features, and then we have some type of a lightning lesson. So we'll give you some type of actionable insights based on what we've been seeing in the market, based on what we've been rolling out functionality wise, or what we're seeing in terms of changes on different UserGems campaigns. What's working with our customers, what's working with our UserGems campaigns, and we'll share them all here. So today's session is on our new analytics dashboards. If you've been a customer with us for a while, you'll maybe have seen our dashboards go through a few different facelifts. This one's my favorite yet because it's actually like super in depth in terms of what you're able to do and see with it. So we have Jordan here, who is our manager of customer success and who has really spearheaded the transformation of our dashboard. So he's going to give a little bit of a background on like what brought us here to creating this new analytics dashboard. And then he'll walk through the entire thing with you and show you exactly what you should be looking for and how you can utilize it. But first, we're going to go through a very quick product update. So it's actually more like another little bit of a facelift. So we've just rolled out customizable CS notifications. So if you are familiar, we do weekly customer success email notifications where it tells your customer success managers which one of their champions have left in order to trigger off some form of a churn prevention play. So this could look something like this Slack message here, where you can now customize this based on what is the CSM's action item. So in this case, they'll get an automatic alert in Slack. We can also program this in email, which could tell them exactly what to do with that company in order to prevent churn, who to reach out to, and what type of messaging they should be providing to get in front of this champion leaving in order to hopefully prevent some form of shakeup in this account as their champions have now left and they need to find a new one. So in terms of setting this up, you can do this by reaching out to your customer success manager. They can talk you through like what types of alerts that you should be setting up, like which champions you should be having your CS reps alerted of leaving, and can give you some recommendations on delivery. So if you want these in Slack, or if you want these in email, they can give you some guidance on like what each one would look like and what might work best for their workflows, depending on how they're working currently. That is our only product update this month. Bear with us. There was a lot of holidays and we're all just getting into the swing of things. So I hope next month we'll have more to share. But why we're all here today, I'm pretty sure, is to actually talk about UserGems analytics. And so these are some high-level screenshots of what Jordan's going to be walking through in just a couple minutes. But basically what we've been showing historically are things like outreach information, like how much activity is taking place on your UserGems leads or contacts, where are they going, what type of revenue have you seen? But now we're able to dig deeper into what's happening at a granular level based on the leads or contacts activity rates, who's been contacted, what segments of people have been contacted, and maybe what are some next steps that your team should be taking. So question in the chat here is, have you ever been overwhelmed by the amount of prospect data that you've been given, either by in sales from marketing teams or from a vendor that's just overbearing with analytics and data? I sure have logged into an admin portal of some of our vendors and had no idea what I was looking for. So we totally want to make this as easy as possible and make sure that you're able to be comfortable in your dashboard and understand exactly what you're looking at and what the actionable item is. And something I want to mention before I pass it over to Jordan is we do have a Q&A. So we will be taking questions during the walkthrough and also after. So if you have any questions as Jordan's walking through the new dashboards or giving any types of tips, if you want to ask any specific questions, please drop them in the Q&A and Jordan or myself will answer them as they come in. I think with that, I'll pass it over to Jordan. Jordan, if you want to give like a quick background of how we got here, and then dive right on the analytics page.
Sure. Thanks, Justine. And I'll share my screen here. All right. So firstly, just really excited to be here with you all and to be able to discuss our new Dig Deeper analytics and insights. As Justine mentioned, I'm the manager of customer success here at UserGems, but I've been working with customers for the last couple of years. The dashboard that you're used to seeing and the level of insight and analytics looks like this, which is still the overview page that you'll see within your dashboard. Tracks the volume of job changes delivered month over month, as well as the volume of contacts that you're tracking and that trend line. From there, the all-time statistics will show just total amount of job changes we've sent, the engagement percentage rate. So of those job changes we've sent, what percent get an activity logged to the lead or contact? It's binary and it aggregates all time. And then the next piece where it says 8 activities shows the median count of activities for those that have received activity. And again, it aggregates data all time. So working with customers, some of the questions that we've received is what is good? What should we be striving for? But also, what's the trend line? Are we seeing that we have an uptick over time, or have we actually started to taper off? Because this aggregates over all time type of data, we don't see that level of granularity, which can be really impactful. The other piece that this ties into as well is not all job changes are created equally. Some of the job changes are going to join a target account or a TAM or ICP account where we know that they're a great customer fit and we want to reach out. Others join an open opportunity account. And so then your rules of engagement might be that we intentionally don't reach out to that person so as to not step on an AE's toes. And then the last piece that I'll mention before we actually go into the analytics and show how you'll be able to work with this is over the last year, Justine's detailed this in prior Dig Deeper sessions. We've come out with a lot of enhancements and asked for various inputs for you that help us to have a lot more intelligence about what type of account that job changer is joining, customer account, target account, total greenfield new account to your database. Where are they coming from? Are they a past buyer? Are they a past champion? Were they a closed loss prospect? And then building in your persona too. Who are the people that you're targeting and their new title is appropriate for the typical outbounding that you're doing? It's a lot of helpful signal, and it helps to fuel fit for purpose messaging and the recommended playbooks that we have. And now that we have all those inputs and a lot that's gone in the back, we're able to tie in that detail into an updated analytics page. So I've just shared my screen here. You'll notice I got here through that main page by clicking the analytics tab that's within that main page. And I'll walk through the filters, how you can manipulate the data, as well as what shows as a default within these tables and how you can learn more about the data that's incorporated into it. Firstly, though, on the left is going to be the filters. So as a default, we're going to see all leads, all time, shown here. And then you have some toggle options that are included for high priority or for only persona. High priority is going to look at a variety of components that we've put together, like the recency of the job change, the past relationship, the new title. When you select this, it'll show everything that's selected as part of this query. I'll go ahead and deselect it for now. Only persona is going to be the new title that you've configured within the settings based on contains or matching parameters. So it might be manager plus, we want anybody with operations, director plus, we want anybody with marketing, and so forth. And then we can look at other inputs as well, like I only want to see those that have been provided within the last month, 3 months, 6 months, or where the job change, the recency is specifically some of these. A few other filters before we look at the table, and I'll look at the chat to see any questions that have popped up there too, are do you just want to see data in the tables for contacted or uncontacted records by specific owners or team relationships? And then based on those intelligence inputs that I mentioned a little previously, perhaps you only want to see job change detail, activities, ownership based on past closed won opportunity contacts or closed lost, just those joining certain account types or even just promotions and job changes. Looking at the chat before we look at what's included in these tables and the data that you might work with, I see a question for how do you define engagement? Is it just sales engagement or marketing too? Great question. For us, we're looking at sales related engagements as a default. So it's going to be any sort of activity, task, event phone call, email that gets logged to the lead or the contact. Good segue then to the contacted job changes and the data that we see in the table. So question that's popped up again in the past has been, how do I know what's good for outreach rates? What should I be targeting? But again, not all outreach is going to be the same, where you can imagine somebody who's that past buyer joining the target account. We're going to want to reach out to every single one of those, whereas we might have different expectations for different circumstances. So what you can look at firstly is just the contacted job changes here. In this case, looks like it's pretty strong at 88%, but you might expect that it should be a little bit higher just for your persona matching contacts. And here it shifted a little bit. We're already pretty high at 88% on the contacted rate, but it jumped up to 90%. As I made that selection, you'll notice it did change the data in the table. So if you also want to see just those within the last 6 months, we could select that input over here, and it's going to continue to shift the values that we see in these tables. Alongside of contacted job changes and what those rates look like, what we can look at is the number of activities. And whereas on that main page that we looked at before, we would show the median count of activities. 8's typically been the benchmark that we shoot for, but median can be a little misleading in terms of how that reflects health, because you might have most landing at 8, but you have a non-trivial amount that are just getting touched once or twice. UserGems, as well as other sales intelligence tools like Outreach, SalesLoft, our data shows that 60% of responses come after the 4th touch, which then necessarily means if you're just touching a prospect 1 or 2 times, we're missing a lot of the surface area of opportunity for where we can generate pipeline, generate responses, get those meetings set. So what we can look at within this table is the number of activities, the distribution. So when there is activity, what percent are getting 1 or 2 touches, what percent are getting 3 or 4 touches, and what percent get 5+ touches. This data is reflecting the filters that we have set on the left side. So you might want to stretch the parameters or adjust those a little bit from here. If this were my customer, this is a demo account for now, but if this were my customer that I were working with, one of the things I would look at is 812 records or leads, contacts with 1 or 2 touches is quite a high volume. We might expect some of that to be just the most recent download of job changes last month, and they're just early into the sequence. But if we look a little bit beneath here, it looks like in January, there were 333 leads delivered. So my hypothesis in this case would be there's probably a lot of folks that are getting dropped into a sequence or cadence, and then they're falling off and they're only getting that 1 or 2 touches. The typical culprits that we see with customers will be that the sequence or the cadence, the 2nd or 3rd step will have a manual task like a phone call and a custom email or a LinkedIn type of touch that's just not getting progressed. And so then it's stalling out. We also hear that this isn't just a UserGems challenge, but it's a challenge with outbound overall. But nonetheless, it looks like in this case, a lot that are queuing here that we want to go into and review and see, are there any through lines? Are there any patterns? Perhaps it's updates to the playbook that's put in place, or it's an enablement component and clarity on SLAs with reps on not just the time to first touch, but completion rates for what gets placed into a sequence. The other culprit that we commonly see here is that if there's lack of prescription in terms of the action of what to do with UserGems, and perhaps they're not using a playbook that you put in place and reps are going a little bit more off script, they might just get 1 or 2 manual touches, but then because they're not in some sort of associated playbook, they can slip through the cracks, and this data can help to illuminate that. Question in the chat is there a way to download this data so we can compare the data now versus 6 months from now after we do a training, enablement, playbook, etc.? What we could look at is some of this does show the recency, so what was 12 months ago versus 6 months ago, but that is a great question, Rihanna. I'd recommend to work with your CSM on that for what that activity looks like and being able to take some of those snapshots. But I think that's a great call out and something that'd be fantastic to monitor. And ultimately, as some of the goals of these analytics is to see trend lines and how you're progressing over time and hopefully always up and to the right. Related to that, the job changes per month. Again, this is just showing the only persona. You'll notice in this case that it looks like there's ebbs and flows in terms of the job changes that are sent, but I'll remove this just to see if there's any delta. Okay. The numbers change in terms of the delivery, but it looks like the median count of activities stayed the same. So if this were my hypothetical customer in this situation, median activities being at 3 against Playbook's recommendations of 8 to 12, a hypothesis I would have here might be that the Playbooks may just have 3 steps that are recommended and would certainly warrant looking into how those were built out and expanding the length of those for increasing the surface area of opportunity and the likelihood of touches coming through. But related to some of these filters on the left, perhaps you just want to see those that have a close one opportunity contact as their past relationship. You can play around with the filters that are available here. All right, next I'll show the team members and how you can break it down on a rep by rep basis and a team basis. Question in the dashboard saw pop up, is this dashboard available through a HubSpot integration? Answer is not quite yet, just for Salesforce customers, though I do believe on the roadmap to enhance the HubSpot functionality for this year. All right, so moving down to the team members. Usually when we see that there are outliers and a lack of activity, follow-up questions that we get from customers is, how do I see who it is? I want to see if there's patterns. Is it coming from just 1 or 2 reps, or is it perhaps coming from 1 or 2 teams? Really excited to have this level of granularity and to be able to see it on a rep by rep basis. And you can apply the filters on the left as well to the prior question of maybe you only want to see those in the last 3 months, as opposed to the last year, so that we have more of that recency in the data that we're looking at. One important call out that I'll make here in terms of the ownership. So you'll see team members, parentheses, DRI. DRI here stands for directly responsible individual. And this is configured and determined in your settings page. The reason for this is somebody who joins a customer account, the responsible individual might be and likely is your account manager or a CSM, whereas if they're joining a open opportunity account, it should be your AE. The settings on our side won't impact the routing that's probably already in place and accommodating for these things, but we want to make sure that we're reading the right person for these analytics and these purposes based on the most common use cases that we see pop up here. Now looking in here, you can collapse it so that you just look at various teams. Looks like the different teams in this environment are relatively similar, 88, 86, 87%. All showing that median count of 3 activities like we saw above, so not a lot of surprise there. But let's say in this case, you see one team that has 15% contacted and the others are much higher. What that could be a good indicator for is perhaps that's a lot of leads joining a customer account or joining open opportunity accounts. And it can be a way to unlock the impact for possible sales acceleration and velocity for those joining open opportunities, or for churn prevention or even expansion if they're joining customer accounts. And we'll be able to see that detail here and the opportunity for impact. Moving a little bit further down the page, earlier I mentioned if somebody's joining a target account, they're a past buyer, we probably expect a bit more activity on those. These tables will show the volume of leads with the filters applied that have the certain past relationships, and in this case, user, customer contact, close loss op contact. The past relationship is custom and configurable by you. So if you prefer to have different nomenclature of admins, high NPS score users, certain language that your company uses that would be helpful for your team to see as that past relationship, you can insert that and associate the input report with that. And then in the table, see what's the volume of job changes coming through and their activity related to that, as well as the volume of accounts being joined. Now, in this case, if I did want to see just close one op contacts joining target accounts and what the activity is, you can select that filter on the left side and then click on and then look at that here. So it looks like we're at 91% contacted for past buyers, past close one op contacts joining target accounts. Now, the question that usually comes up with customers as we look at this is great, but how do I see who that delta is, those 16 that are non-contacted? So we just updated our job changes page that's related to this. So if you click on job changes over here, and then I have this open in a new tab, this will have similar filters, and it's going to show all job changes that we have sent to Salesforce in this case. And we can replicate the filter that we had there. So if you just want to see, in this case, those close won opportunity contacts that have joined target accounts, you could filter for this. And then up here, we have number of activities. So we might say number of activities equals 0. And be able to see the close won op contacts that have joined target accounts with no activity. You'll see who they are, the company that they've joined, the time with which they've joined. We filtered to require 0 activities, so that's reflected here. And then who is the owner of the account or the contact, as well as the DRI. So it's great insight for you as an admin, as well as for your team to be able to drill into this and see, where's my low-hanging fruit? Who are the most valuable folks? And of course, you can iterate this and scale this across various different use cases. But in this case, able to go from seeing those analytics, having that awareness, and then replicate that filter here within a few clicks and have something that's immediately deployable to get over to your team, whether it's looking at the low activity with certain recency or looking at those without activity. Lastly, just pulling a couple other notes before handing back to Justine for some closing comments. We do have other insights of most common job titles, industries, and then you can play with the filters for what's going to have maximum impact for you. We're really excited to get this to our customers to ultimately help drive data-driven insights, helping firstly with the awareness. Where is there some low-hanging fruit? Where can we help to isolate activities so that we can help you generate the right pipeline? Or perhaps if we're seeing that there's a lot that are joining open opportunities that are unactioned, to help not just the generating pipeline, but sales velocity as well. So excited to get this out to you. Looking forward to feedback and working on it with you as well. Any questions you have, please let your CSM know, and they'll be happy to dig into it with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jordan. We do have another question in the Q&A. Did you say this data was integrated to Salesforce? If so, how? So the data is shown in our dashboard is like what Jordan was going through is available in your UserGems dashboard. However, all of that information is pulled directly from Salesforce. So all of that activity information is coming from activities logged on contacts or leads in Salesforce. And then all of the persona matching information and the DRIs was all configured within your settings in your UserGems dashboard. So if you have any questions about that or want to make any changes to it, you can do so with your CSM or in your settings. But all of the activity data and the reps and the assignment is all pulled from Salesforce. So a few things, takeaways that could be in theory easy to take away right now is to go through your analytics and increase your activity rate if needed. So a way to do this would be to automate high priority gems. So the ones that Jordan had shown were past buyers or close won opportunity contacts that join a target or a key account. And make sure that you're able to use these Slack notifications that we have out of the box to make sure that the reps are notified that they have job changes. Median activities should be at least 5, but what all of the outreach tools like Outreach, SalesLoft, and Groove are saying is that this actually should be somewhere between 8 and 12. So review your sequences that are being used for UserGems and make sure that there are at least 8 activities. And what we see work best is some type of multi-channel sequences. So things using LinkedIn, phone, any types of LinkedIn video have been really popular, or voice notes as well. And then something else that this dashboard was able to show really nicely is not only who is joining target accounts or accounts with no opportunities, but UserGems that are joining open opportunities and customer accounts. And these can be really great for expansion and acceleration plays. So if they are not already, you should definitely consider getting your sales managers or sales directors in here, or any of your customer success managers or account managers in here, and work with your UserGems CSM to enable these new teams to start using these past champions that are joining these open ops or customer accounts to see what else can my customers do for me? And where else can they help increase my pipeline? And then I think I just have one more here in terms of where to submit feedback and where to access. So Jordan outlined it nicely. If you log into your page, your analytics or your dashboard, there's an analytics button on the top left next to opportunities. If you do not know your login link or you need a new login link, please reach out to your customer success manager. And then just here on the last slide, how to get in touch with us. So if you have any feedback specifically on product, please reach out to me. I'm Justine at UserGems. You can also find me on LinkedIn. If you have any specific feedback or suggestions, also feel free to communicate those with your CSM, specifically because we do have regular meetings with our product team that is able to take these feedback and suggestions and add to our dashboards or figure out what additional information that you might want to see or what might be helpful in order to make your program more successful. If you have any suggestions on future topics, we do have the first quarter planned out, but if you have anything that you want to learn or want to know more about in terms of UserGems or our outbound programs or like what's working for us, feel free to drop it either in the chat where Amber has dropped the topic crowdsource, or you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn too. But first of all, thank you, Jordan, for coming and sharing, and thanks everyone else for the questions.